For the first time in 75 years, NASCAR has run a street course, and this time it was on the streets of Chicago and Grant Park. 12 corners, 2.2 miles, high speed, low speed, technical areas. I thought this track had everything.
Yeah, I thought it did too. In the places that we anticipated to see passing, we didn't. We saw passing other zones. The up and over the bridge, interesting place. Coming back up, having wet areas and dry areas. This had a lot of everything, and the penalty for making mistakes was big.
Well, you mentioned the wet areas, so if the streets weren't tough enough, we had a wet start. The green flag happened on wet tires. Denny Hamlin led the field to green after winning the pole the day before. Wasn't able to lead the first lap, though. The 45 of Tyler Reddick took over, led early, and then 8 laps in, Christopher Bell overtook him.
Yeah, Tyler Reddick, very aggressive move, turn 1, and got clear of Denny by turn 2. Looked like there were 3 cars that really separated themselves in the wet. The 45 of Tyler Reddick, the 20 of Christopher Bell, and the 91 of eventual race winner, Shane Van Gisbergen.
If you don't know that name, that's totally okay. SVG. That's what you need to know. He was driving for Trackhouse in their Project 91 entry. He is from New Zealand. He drives in Australian supercars. And Shane Van Gisbergen went on to victory lane. Let's talk about the driver of the 91 because there's a lot of conversation about how he got it done. Supercars to NASCAR, they look similar, but the driver sits on the whole other side of the car. What were your thoughts on his transition? I didn't think a guy could do it in his first start.
I didn't either. In retrospect, tried to look back and say, what did I miss? But they're very similar. You think about these cars, transaxles, very similar between the 2 cars. He adjusted and adapted very well to that, and a great talent here.
It had been 60 years since someone making their Cup Series debut went to victory lane. That has been broken, and why not on the streets? But I think when we look back, there are going to be a couple of the Cup regulars that think what could have been. The 45 of Reddick, the 20 of Christopher Bell, both ran up front during the first half of the race. The 20 winning both stage 1 and stage 2 and really dominated the race until pit stops. But it's a little more complicated than that. Let's walk through. The race was delayed. NASCAR made a decision to shorten the race. First of all, your opinion on that decision, and then we're going to get into how that affected the strategy.
Yeah, I think NASCAR did a good job with this. I think they understood the time window that they're working against and where the pace of the race was going. Lap times were slower being in the wet. They got in a challenge there. Do I think that we all saw that this race was going to be shorter before they announced what the number was going to be? Yes. I actually think part of the strategy of what happened here, we heard Adam Stevens and Christopher Bell having the conversation at lap 40 about whether they should pit then. They gave them almost 30 laps notice of when the end of the race was going to be. And I think that's part of our jobs as crew chiefs is to anticipate what's going to happen here and make those strategy calls.
So let's set the stage. Alex Bowman gets spun around. The caution comes out. You mentioned the conversation on the radio with the 20. The 48 then has an engine problem, a new caution, a new cycle. This is when the leaders all pit. So the 20 then restarts, checking my notes here, in the 12th position. Still has a chance to win the race.
Yeah, he's the best position, starting position. He came off pit road first of the guys that came at that lap 47 caution. He was in a great position. He had Tyler Reddick behind him. He had Shane Van Gisbergen behind him. So I think he was back in 18th. So he's in a good position. He's got cars to pass, but he's had a superior car all day.
We talked all weekend about the narrowness of the track. Well, we finally saw it come to light. Turn 11 on that restart. The 24 gets into the barrier. The 7 and the 4 get together. And just like that, we have a Chicago traffic jam on Michigan Ave in the Chicago street course. The big beneficiary, though, Tyler Reddick sneaks by, gains 7 spots.
Christopher Bell was ahead of Tyler Reddick. They came into here. Tyler looked a little right. Christopher looked left on this thing. The left all congested. Tyler snuck through before it became a complete block, but got him, jumped his track position ahead of Christopher at that point.
I bring it up because I think that's the key. Now Bell knows he didn't really lose any spots here, but he lost to Reddick. So on the next restart, you can feel the 20 pressing. He's feeling like he's running out of time, and we finally see the 20 make his first big mistake of the day. He gets into those tires in turn 1. That was kind of the end of the day for the 20.
Yeah, lost him track position. Obviously should be a little damage there. Pressing, having to press, because I really think Christopher looked at this race and said he's got 2 cars to beat, and that got him in trouble. Likewise, Tyler, a push beyond that.
Well, that's what surprised me, because once the 20 was kind of eliminated, I thought the 45 was absolutely in position A. easy to say he made a mistake. It was a very difficult course, but we hadn't seen him misstep and just completely misjudge turn 6. Got on the tire barrier, not alone, but the in-car camera said it all. I could see the emotion on his face where he knew I messed up where I couldn't because I had a chance to win this race.
Yeah, and I really felt like he didn't need to push that last 2% at that point. He'd already passed Kyle Busch for 4th at that point and had 3 guys that pitted on lap 31. Didn't know if they were going to have enough fuel to run the end of the race, but he definitely had a 15, 16 lap tire advantage on him. He was in a great position, but this place, if you made a mistake, you got penalized for it.
Somebody had to win, and it was Shane Van Gisbergen, SVG, who went on to win the race. I want to talk about that drive from 18th to 1st, the car control, the patience, restarts, multiple attempts at it. He seemed like he had been here before, even though he hadn't.
I thought in the middle of the race, as we had a restart there in the middle of the race, and he lost positions. I think Martin Truex got by him, a few other guys. I thought this was where, okay, the sport's bigger than him. But I really feel like in retrospect, he just realized he needed to make it to the end. The run he made at the end, that 18th to the lead, I mean, you noticed it at times, it wasn't tenths of seconds that he was making up people. And not only the speed he had, the ability to dispose of cars when he got to it without touching them. He set them up, passed them, never wasted time with them.
And I do want to highlight what you just said, without touching them. I thought he put on an unbelievable display, but he did it without even crossing a fender with anyone. His final move in the 31 of Justin Haley was true precision. I mean, it was almost like a surgeon using a scalpel, how he kind of passed him on Lakeshore Drive, allowing the 31 to go by. But the 31 brings us to cars that made something out of perhaps nothing. Chase Elliott, who ended up running in the top 3, Justin Haley, who had a chance to win this race, and the 8 of Kyle Busch. All 3 ran in the top 5, and at one point, all 3 were dead last in this field.
Yeah. Chase Elliott started with a backup car. Justin Haley talked about his guys working all night to get body panels put on that thing from a situation in qualifying. They both started at the back, and Kyle Busch joined them back there pretty early. Lap 3, got stuck in, we talked about the tire barriers in turn 6. He was the first one to get wedged under him and have to get pulled out.
Yeah, he showed us all how the hooks and the straps work to pull the cars out. So let's look at their day in the line graph. You mentioned it. I'm not going to highlight the beginning because they all go to the back. They're all not very happy. Let's talk about how they got there. We're going to use, let's use the 9 and the 31 to start. They pitted right here. This is in the lap 31 window. There's no chance when they're coming to pit road at lap 31, they think this is their last stop. But I believe this is a great decision by crew chief saying, we don't have track position. The only way to get it is keeping our car full of fuel. At some point, the race may tip our way.
Yeah, definitely one of those situations. They all think it's going to be rain shortened, but I don't think that they think it's going to be rain shortened to the point where 31 comes into play. And it eventually did. But to your point, just trying to keep ahead, being different, being on a different strategy, trying to find that opportunity. 2 of them did here, and it cycled forward for him.
Kyle Busch, a little bit different. He was on the next cycle. I can use my fancy circle to make myself look better. Right here at lap 41, he comes to pit road, and then he stays out once the decision is made only to run to 75 with a wounded race car. I thought made some great decisions on the racetrack. He actually pulled over for the eventual race winner, didn't put himself in bad position. He made a mistake early. He didn't compound it by making another one.
I thought he recovered. I thought he did a good job of just recovering with his own drive. But then that call, that's that one that everybody was questioning about. Where are we going to race to? Is this an opportunity to go from here, not in a position to score stage points? Came down pit road, cycled themselves forward, a good drive from there, and a solid top 5 finish.
Well, in 8 weeks, the NASCAR playoffs will be here. There's some big names on the outside looking in. It looked like maybe Chase Elliott could get the win. Maybe it was going to be Justin Haley, but in the end, it was the New Zealander. Shane Van Gisbergen goes to victory lane in Project 91.